Turkish Airlines Flight 981 was the deadliest single-aircraft aviation accident in history when it crashed in March 1974. The left cargo door of the DC-10 ripped off while flying over France, causing a critical failure in the cockpit and crashing the aircraft. What were the reasons behind the crash? How many people were on board, and how many died? Stick till the end of the video to find out your answers. Hello and welcome to Plane Crashes Explained, where we discuss some of the most mind-blowing reasons and facts behind the most heinous plane crashes. Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so you won't miss future updates. Without further ado, let's get straight into this. It was the worst single plane accident until 1985, killing 346 people. When Turkish Air Flight 981 crashed in March 1974, it was the world's most dangerous single aircraft airline disaster. The DC-10's left cabin door ripped off while flying over France, causing a critical malfunction in the cockpit and causing the plane to crash. TK-981 was supposed to fly from Istanbul to London Heathrow, with a stopover at Paris Orly. The first leg from Istanbul to Orly went smoothly, with a 4-hour flight time. While the Orly to Heathrow leg does not normally attract many passengers, an ongoing strike by British European Airlines employees meant that the economy cabin was full, with the aircraft originally carrying 167 passengers and 11 crew members for the first leg. 50 disembarked, and 218 more passengers boarded. The flight took off at 12:32 p.m. local time. A crash occurred inside one of Turkish Airlines Douglas DC-10s on March 3, 1974. Normally, the Orly to Heathrow leg does not attract many passengers, but due to British European unrest, the economy class was packed on this fatal flight. The plane took off at 12:32 p.m. local time, but something went wrong just a few minutes later. The DC-10 sustained damage to its cargo area door while flying 50 kilometers above Mo. Shortly after 11:40 hours, when Turkish Airlines flight TK-981 had reached 12,000 feet, roughly 3,700 meters, during the climb, air traffic control recorded a transmission in Turkish, partly obscured by heavy background noise and accompanied by the pressurization warning and then the overspeed warning. At the same time, the aircraft radar return split in half and the secondary radar label vanished. At the time, the plane was flying over Coulommiers, France. The last 2 rows of seats were sucked through a large hole in the plane due to rapid decompression. The loss of the rear left cargo door resulted in a significant pressure difference with the cabin directly above it. This section of the aircraft, along with the 6 passengers seated, was ripped off. However, the loss of the door meant that pilots could no longer access critical parts of the plane, such as the rudder, elevator, and engine 2. The airliner exploded at 783 kilometers per hour, shattering into thousands of tons. Given the magnitude of the devastation, identifying the dead and gathering evidence proved difficult. There were 346 people on the plane who died, including 11 crew members and 335 passengers, notably the 6 who passed away when the cabin area was shattered. The cargo door was the center of attention, as was the cause of its failure. The cause was quickly identified as a design flaw and a failure by station engineers to ensure the door was securely closed before departure. The pivot on the DC-10's rear cargo door had not been properly adjusted, and the closing pins had not been properly installed. As the door unexpectedly opened after 11,000 feet, the screws began to give way. Because Turkish Airlines did not have an engineer on the ground at Orly that day, baggage handler Mohammed Mahmoudi was left to seal the door. After completing the basic routine, he turned off the interior caution sign, assuming the door had closed smoothly. The cabin light was deceptive because the locking pins were not engaged. 6 passengers were killed when their seats fell into a field in St. Pathos. The plane remained in the air for another 70 seconds as the pilots attempted but failed to regain control. The aircraft's original pitch angle was negative 20 degrees, resulting in massive airspeed accumulation during its quick descent. The aircraft's descent rate began to slow in the final 15 seconds as the nose rose due to the aircraft's high speed. In a last-ditch effort to save the aircraft, Captain Alusman pushed the throttles forward to take off go-around, exclaiming, "Speed! Speed!" The plane hit the treetops at 434 knots with a negative 4-degree pitch angle. The wings broke up, spilling and igniting the fuel and exploding, killing the remaining 340 passengers and crew on board. The plane nearly disintegrated, leaving only 40 bodies intact. The investigation focused on Turkish Airlines and Douglas, both of which were responsible for different aspects of the crisis. The airline reportedly rushed the DC-10 training process and failed to station an engineer on the ground. However, McDonnell Douglas was aware of the flaws in the door design, and an NTSB directive after a similar incident did not occur. TK-981 remained the deadliest single aircraft crash for over a decade, until the 1985 crash of Japan Airlines Flight 123, which became the single deadliest aircraft disaster, killing 520 people. In the aftermath, the DC-10 received several design changes to prevent such crashes and renewed scrutiny of the design process. The ejection in flight of the aft cargo door on the left-hand side caused the floor structure to be disrupted, causing 6 passengers and parts of the aircraft to be ejected, rendering the No. 2 engine inoperable and impairing the flight controls, tail surfaces, making it impossible for the crew to regain control of the aircraft. The incorrect engagement of the door latching mechanism before takeoff was the underlying factor in the sequence of events that led to the accident. The mechanism's design characteristics allowed the vent door to appear closed and the cargo door to appear locked when, in fact, the latches were not fully closed and the lock pins were not in place. It should be noted, however, that a viewport was provided so that the engagement of the lock pins could be visually checked. Finally, despite the apparent redundancy of the flight control systems, the inadequacy of the pressure relief vents between the cargo compartment and the passenger cabin, as well as the fact that all flight control cables were routed beneath the floor, put the aircraft in grave danger in the event of any sudden depressurization, causing substantial damage to that part of the structure. All of these dangers had been obvious 19 months earlier at the time of the Windsor accident, but no corrective action had been taken. An inward opening passenger door, also known as a plug door, is more resistant to blowing open by design than an outward opening cargo hatch. In flight, the air pressure inside the aircraft is higher than the outside, exerting an outward force on the doors. In the case of a plug door, this tightens the seal. In contrast, an outward opening cargo hatch relies entirely on its latch to prevent it from opening in flight, making the locking mechanisms especially important. Other than DC-10s, other aircraft have experienced catastrophic cargo hatch failures. The Boeing 747 has been involved in several such incidents, the most notable of which occurred in February 1989 on United's Flight 811, when a cargo hatch failure caused the section of the fuselage to burst open, killing 9 passengers who were blown out of the aircraft. Following the earlier Flight 96 incident, the NTSB issued recommendations to reduce the risk of another hatch failure, but no airline implemented them. As a result, the NTSB now communicates its recommendations for safety improvements directly to the FAA, which may then issue airworthiness directives based on those recommendations. However, it is not required to do so. The crash of Turkish Airlines Flight 981 was covered in Behind Closed Doors, a Season 5 episode of the internationally syndicated Canadian TV documentary series Mayday, which also covered the similar 1972 incident on American Airlines Flight 96 in 2008. Days of Fury from 1979, directed by Fred Warshawski and hosted by Vincent Price, featured footage of the incident. The crash was one of the deadliest plane crashes ever, but obviously, with a little bit more careful examination of the plane, it could have been avoided. But you know what they say, whenever it is supposed to happen, it will happen. What do you think can be done to avoid such crashes? Leave your valuable suggestions in the comments section. That's all for today. If you found this video interesting, give us a thumbs up and don't forget to share the video with your friends and family. Thank you for watching.